I think that Trump is elected partly because of a mistake that's been made by the left, which is this holier than thou purity testing that I talk about a lot on this podcast, and that the comics that Kurt mentioned talk about as well. I think that's a major mistake, because anything you do that's going to alienate decent people who aren't necessarily signed up for your movement is a mistake, because you can't threaten decent straight people with your scene. So I think the mistake in the 60s and the 70s was the disdain that a lot of the counterculture felt toward straight people. That alienated them, that divided the country in a way that worked against the counterculture. I think you have to be accepting and inclusive. And this has been a problem with the so-called left forever, because the left sort of defines itself, and I certainly count myself among them, defines itself as being smarter than the average person, seeing things average people don't see, sort of being beyond all that. And I do believe that that's part of what makes the counterculture, right? That it sees things in the culture that the average person can't see. And so it's rebelling against things that are invisible to the mainstream. That's the nature of the counterculture. That's the nature of being on the fringe of anything. The problem is that posture or that perspective makes it very tempting to consider yourself superior. You're smarter, you're cooler, you're hipper, man. You listen to better music. You've got the cool clothing. You've got the cool beard. You've got the cool clothes. You've got the cool girl. You've got the cool guy. You've got the cool. You're so fucking cool that you come across as an asshole to normal people. And if you come across as an asshole, they don't want to hear what you have to say. Even if, as is generally the case, the insights that you have could be incredibly liberating for them, could be very important for them, very helpful for them, right? Because the fact is that the middle class is getting fucked. The middle class is getting screwed by this culture, right? But they don't see themselves as counterculture. They see themselves as within the heart of the culture, and they're trying to preserve it. And truthfully, those are your natural allies. If you're a counterculture, the people who are being screwed over in the heartland are your natural allies, because you've got a common enemy. The problem is that they don't know that that's their enemy. They don't recognize it as their enemy. There's certain things that they see. Certainly, the banks are fucking them over, so they're anti-Wall Street. Monsanto is fucking them over, if we're talking about farmers in the Midwest, so they're anti-big agriculture, right? So they certainly have. They're starting to see that there are elements of the mainstream culture that are against them, that are victimizing them. They're against Washington, right? Whatever they think of when they think of Washington. So it's a protest vote for Trump. But the problem, and I see them making it right now, I see the counterculture making it right now, is that instead of cultivating an alliance with these people, what they do is they look down on them. They say they're racist, they're ignorant, they don't understand. They they demand that whatever LGBTQ and all the rest of the letters be honored and proclaimed across the land. Everything has to be the way we want it to be, and if you don't get it, you're just out of it. You're an idiot. You're too old. You're too white. You're too square. You're too whatever. But that's fucking us. That's fucking the progressive movement. And that's what the progressive movement always does. It splinters. There's backbiting. There's knives in each other's backs. There's all this conflict within the movement. So the right, which is unified around this very simple idea, profit, fuck y'all, get out of our way, fuck your regulations, fuck your hippie poetry, fuck your whatever, just get the fuck out of the way and let us make money. They're unified. You've got, you know, I mean, look at it. You've got evangelicals voting for a fucking Trump, a guy who's been married 3 times to all foreigners. You know, I think he's an atheist. I mean, they don't give a shit. They just want power. They just want power and money. But the problem is, on our side, it's not even a side. That's the problem. It's a fractured mess. And we have a lot more people. There are a lot more people who believe that in gay rights and women's choice and, you know, cutting down on reducing the amount of money that's going to foreign wars. And, you know, you look at the people who believe that climate change is real and that it's a serious issue. It's like 80-something%. And yet we can't get these things passed. Why? Because the other side's unified and we're attacking each other all the time. So back to Kurt's question. What can we do to avoid potential mistakes made by the hippies and avoid another Nixon Reagan-esque backlash? I think it's the same thing as always. We have to be inclusive. We have to understand that working class black people and working class white people are on the same side. We have to understand that all the different minority groups are on the same side of this. And what the other side does is divide and conquer, and we let them do it. And every time some fucking cool hippie looks down their nose at a straight person and, you know, gives them that "you're not cool" vibe, you're playing into the hands of the enemy. You are giving away your power, which is the power of community. You're giving it away and you're inviting your own demise. So, yeah, what can we do? We can stop thinking we're so fucking cool. I think that's probably the most important thing we can do. And we can understand that the guy who lost his job working in a fucking coal mine deserves our compassion and our help and our respect and not our disdain.